The first time my daughter called me by my name in public, the entire restaurant went silent. I still remember the sound of the spoon slipping from my hand and hitting the floor. "Rachel," she said loudly. "Can you pass the salt?" Not Mom. Not Mother. Just Rachel. Several people turned to look at us. My husband froze halfway through cutting his steak. And 16-year-old Emma sat there as if she had done nothing unusual. My chest tightened. "Emma," I said quietly. "What?" "You know that's not what you call me." She shrugged. "It's your name, isn't it?" The silence around the table felt unbearable. My husband, Daniel, cleared his throat. "Emma, enough." But she leaned back in her chair and crossed her arms. "Why? Everyone acts like I'm committing a crime." Nobody answered. Because the truth was far more painful than she knew. Emma had stopped calling me Mom nearly 3 years earlier. At first, we thought it was a phase. Then we thought it was teenage rebellion. But over time it became something much darker. Something personal. Something intentional. And I had no idea why. I passed her the salt. She didn't thank me. She never did anymore. The drive home was even worse. Daniel kept both hands on the steering wheel while Emma stared out the window. I sat in the back seat because Emma refused to sit beside me. The distance between us was less than 3 feet. Yet it felt like an ocean. When we reached home, Emma walked straight upstairs. Her bedroom door slammed. Daniel sighed. "You should talk to her." A bitter laugh escaped me. "I've tried for 3 years. Keep trying." "Daniel, she won't even look at me." He didn't respond. Because he knew I was right. That night, I stood outside Emma's bedroom holding a mug of hot chocolate. The same hot chocolate she used to beg me for every winter. I knocked softly. "Emma?" No answer. "Can I come in?" Silence. I opened the door anyway. She was sitting at her desk wearing headphones. Her face glowed from her laptop screen. I placed the mug beside her. "Thought you might want this." She glanced at it. Then at me. For a moment I saw the little girl she used to be. Then the wall returned. "Thanks, Rachel." The word hit harder than a slap. I swallowed. Did I do something? She rolled her eyes. "Not this again. Please." Nothing happened. "Then why do you hate me?" Her chair scraped against the floor. "I don't hate you. You haven't called me Mom in years. Maybe because you're not really my mother." The room went silent. I felt every ounce of blood drain from my face. "What?" Emma immediately looked away. As if she hadn't meant to say it. But it was too late. The words were already hanging between us. "You know that's not true," I whispered. She clenched her jaw. "Good night." "Emma." "Good night." I left the room shaking. Downstairs, Daniel found me crying in the kitchen. "What happened?" I repeated what she had said. His expression darkened. "Who told her that?" "I don't know. It's ridiculous." But neither of us slept that night. Because Emma's words had awakened a fear I thought was buried forever. A secret. One I had protected for 16 years. A secret capable of destroying everything. The next morning, I found Emma eating cereal before school. I sat across from her. She immediately looked annoyed. "Can we not?" "Not until you tell me what you meant." She dropped her spoon. "Why are you so obsessed with it?" "Because you're my daughter." "There you go again." "What does that mean?" Emma stood up. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." Her eyes filled with tears. Real tears. The first emotion I'd seen from her in months. "You want the truth?" "Yes." "Then ask Grandma." I blinked. "Grandma?" "My grandmother knows." What does she know? But Emma was already walking toward the door. Ask her. The front door slammed behind her. I stood frozen. My mother. Linda. We hadn't spoken properly in almost 4 years. Not after what happened at my father's funeral. Not after she blamed me for something that wasn't my fault. And now Emma was telling me that somehow my mother knew why my daughter hated me. The entire day felt endless. By evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove to Linda's house. The same white farmhouse where I grew up. The same place I'd spent years trying to forget. When she opened the door, surprise flashed across her face. Rachel? We need to talk. She hesitated. Then stepped aside. The house smelled exactly the same. Coffee. Old books. Lavender candles. For a moment I felt 12 years old again. We sat across from each other in the living room. What is this about? She asked. I took a deep breath. Emma says you know something. Her face changed instantly. Not confusion. Not surprise. Fear. Real fear. My heart started pounding. Mom, I whispered. What did you tell her? Linda stared at the floor. Then she said something that shattered my world. I didn't tell her. Then who did? Her eyes slowly lifted to mine. Your sister. The room spun. No. Rachel. No. My sister Olivia had been dead for 17 years. Dead before Emma was even born. Dead before she ever got the chance to become an aunt. So how could she possibly have told Emma anything? Linda reached for my hand. I pulled away. That's impossible. Tears appeared in her eyes. I know how it sounds. Then explain it. She stood up and walked toward an old wooden cabinet. For several seconds she searched through a drawer. Then she returned holding a yellow envelope. One I had never seen before. Mom, what's that? She placed it on the table. Her hands were trembling. This arrived 3 months ago. From who? Linda's voice broke. The return address had Olivia's name on it. I stared at the envelope. Then at her. And suddenly, for the first time in 16 years, I was terrified of the truth hidden inside. Because if Olivia had somehow left a message behind, then everything Emma believed about me might be about to change. And not in the way I hoped. For several seconds, neither my mother nor I moved. The yellow envelope sat between us like a loaded weapon. I stared at Olivia's name written in faded blue ink. My older sister's handwriting. The exact looping letters I had seen thousands of times growing up. My pulse hammered in my ears. That's not possible, I whispered. I thought the same thing, Mom said. Someone must have faked it. Maybe. But why? Mom looked exhausted. Older than I remembered. Open it. My fingers shook as I picked up the envelope. Part of me wanted to throw it into the fireplace. Some secrets stay buried because digging them up only creates more pain. But Emma was already involved. And somehow, whatever was inside had reached her first. I carefully slid out a folded letter. The paper looked old. Very old. My stomach dropped. At the top was a date. September 14, 2009. 17 years earlier. 3 weeks before Olivia died. My breathing stopped. I unfolded the page. The first line nearly broke me. If you're reading this, then something happened to me before I could tell the truth myself. The room blurred. I blinked away tears. Mom remained silent. She had obviously read it many times before. I continued. Rachel, if life goes the way I hope, you'll never see this letter. I'll tell you everything in person. But if you're holding it now, then I failed. My chest tightened. Mom. I know. I kept reading. There is something I've hidden from you. Something I've hidden from everyone. The words became harder to focus on. Then I reached the next paragraph. And my entire body froze. The baby is yours. I stopped breathing. The paper slipped in my hands. Mom closed her eyes. As if she already knew what memory had just hit me. No, I whispered. No, no, no. The room disappeared. And suddenly I was 17 years old again. Olivia had always been the beautiful one. The confident one. The one who walked into a room and instantly became the center of attention. I adored her. Everyone did. When she became pregnant at 19, our family was shocked. But Olivia insisted she could handle it. The father disappeared before the pregnancy reached 6 months. She never told anyone his name. And whenever we asked, she changed the subject. Then came the accident. A rainy October night. A truck driver who fell asleep. A phone call that destroyed our family. By the time we reached the hospital, Olivia was gone. Only the baby survived. A tiny newborn girl fighting for her life. Emma. My Emma. I remembered standing beside the incubator. Looking at that tiny face. Making a promise. A promise I never broke. I'll take care of her. And I had. For 16 years. Every fever. Every nightmare. Every scraped knee. Every school project. Every birthday cake. Every Christmas morning. I was there. I was always there. The memory vanished. And I found myself back in Mom's living room. The letter still trembling in my hands. What does she mean? I asked. Mom looked miserable. She never told me everything. Then why write that? I don't know. I continued reading. Rachel, if you're reading this, Emma is probably old enough to know the truth. My throat tightened. The truth is complicated. You can say that again, I muttered. Mom didn't smile. I read on. There are things I never told anyone. Things that happened before Emma was born. Things I was ashamed of. Then the letter suddenly ended. I flipped the page. Nothing. Just blank paper. That's it? Mom nodded. That was all that was inside. What kind of letter ends like that? I asked myself the same question. I stared at her. Did Emma read this? Mom hesitated. That was answer enough. My stomach dropped. You gave it to her? No. Then how did she see it? Mom looked away. 3 seconds passed. Then 5. I already knew I wasn't going to like the answer. Mom. She sighed. Emma found it. Found it where? She came here during spring break. My jaw tightened. You let her go through your things? I didn't know she was. And she read this? Mom nodded. She found it in my desk. A cold feeling spread through my chest. Everything suddenly made sense. The hostility. The anger. The distance. Emma believed this letter proved I had lied to her. 4 years. Maybe her entire life. I stood up so quickly the coffee table rattled. I have to go. Rachel. I need to talk to my daughter. Mom grabbed my wrist. The same way she used to when I was a child. There's more. I froze. What? Tears appeared in her eyes. There was another item in the envelope. My heart sank. Another letter? No. She walked back to the cabinet. This time she removed a small leather notebook. Brown. Worn. Familiar. The moment I saw it, my blood ran cold. Mom. She slowly handed it to me. I couldn't breathe. Because I recognized it instantly. My diary. The diary I'd kept when I was 17. The diary that vanished after Olivia's death. The diary I searched for years and never found. How do you have this? It came with the letter. I stared at the cover. 100 memories flooded back. Every secret. Every fear. Every heartbreak. Every dream. All locked inside those pages. Emma read it too, Mom whispered. The room tilted. She what? Mom's face crumpled. She read several chapters before I realized what she'd found. I felt physically sick. Because there was something inside that diary. Something Emma was never supposed to see. Not because it was shameful. Because it was painful. A truth I'd buried to protect her. And if she'd read those pages. Oh God. The realization hit me like a truck. Maybe Emma wasn't angry because she thought I wasn't her mother. Maybe she was angry because she finally knew exactly how much I'd sacrificed for her. And she hated me for it. I grabbed the diary. I need to go home. Rachel. But I was already heading toward the door. The drive back felt endless. Dark clouds covered the sky. Rain began hitting the windshield. By the time I reached home, my nerves were shredded. Emma's car was in the driveway. She was home. I walked inside. Daniel looked up from the kitchen. One look at your face tells me something happened. Where's Emma? Upstairs. I didn't answer. I simply climbed the steps. One by one. My heart pounding harder with each step. When I reached her room, I stopped. The door was slightly open. Inside, Emma sat on her bed. Crying. Not quietly. Not the angry tears of a teenager. The broken tears of someone whose entire world had collapsed. My breath caught. Because spread across her blanket were photocopies. Pages from my diary. Dozens of them. And in her trembling hands was one page she couldn't stop reading. The page where I had written the truth about the night Olivia died. A truth I had never told anyone. Not even Daniel. Emma slowly looked up. Our eyes met. And the first words out of her mouth changed everything. Why didn't you tell me she begged you to take me? For a moment, I couldn't speak. The rain tapped softly against the bedroom window. Emma sat on the bed clutching the diary page so tightly that the paper had started to wrinkle. Her eyes were swollen from crying. And for the first time in years, there was no anger in them. Only pain. Raw, overwhelming pain. Emma, I whispered. She stood up so suddenly the paper scattered across the floor. Why didn't you tell me? I swallowed hard. Tell you what? The truth. Her voice cracked. The real truth. She held up the diary page. My diary. My private thoughts from 17 years earlier. Thoughts written in the middle of grief. Thoughts never intended for anyone else's eyes. Especially not hers. I didn't want you carrying that burden. What burden? Tears streamed down her face. That she chose you. The words hit me square in the chest. For several seconds neither of us moved. Then Emma laughed bitterly. A laugh filled with heartbreak. Do you know what I thought all these years? I remained silent. Do you? No. She wiped her face. I thought I was your responsibility. The sentence nearly broke me. I thought you took me because nobody else wanted me. Emma. I thought Grandma felt sorry for you. That's not true. I thought every birthday party, every school event, every soccer game. Her voice shattered. I thought you were doing those things because you had to. I felt tears forming in my own eyes. Emma. But then I read this. She looked down at the diary page. Then began reading aloud. The words were mine. Written through tears 17 years earlier. Olivia grabbed my hand before the doctors took her away. She could barely speak. She kept crying because she thought Emma would grow up alone. I promised her that wouldn't happen. Emma's voice trembled. She said, Rachel, if I don't make it, don't let her ever feel unwanted. Promise me she'll know she's loved. The room fell silent. I remembered writing those words. I remembered the hospital. The smell. The fear. The impossible hope that Olivia would survive. Emma lowered the paper. She trusted you. Yes. She chose you. Yes. Then why didn't you tell me? I sat down slowly on the edge of her desk chair. Because the answer wasn't simple. Because every time I looked at you, I didn't see Olivia's daughter. Emma frowned. I continued. I saw my daughter. Fresh tears appeared in her eyes. But I wasn't. You were. No. Yes. She shook her head. Biologically, I wasn't. I stood up. Emma, listen to me carefully. She didn't look away. When you were 6 months old, you had pneumonia. Her expression changed. You stayed in the hospital for 8 days. She blinked. How do you know that? Because I slept in a chair beside your bed every single night. The room went silent. When you were 7, you got scared of thunderstorms. A small flicker crossed her face. You made me check every closet before bedtime. She remembered. I could tell. When you were 10, you broke your wrist riding your bike. Emma looked down. And when you were 13, you cried for 3 hours because your best friend moved away. Her lip trembled. I stepped closer. Those aren't memories borrowed from someone else's life. Tears rolled down my cheeks. They're ours. Emma stared at me. For the first time in years, truly stared at me. Not through me. Not past me. At me. And suddenly I saw the little girl she used to be. The girl who climbed into my lap during movies. The girl who called me mommy 20 times a day. The girl I thought I'd lost forever. Then she whispered something that made my heart ache. I missed her. I froze. Who? The version of you before. I didn't understand. What do you mean? Emma looked around the room. At the diary pages. At the memories spread across her bed. At some point you stopped fighting. The words hurt because they were true. She continued. You used to tell stories. I blinked. You used to sing in the car. Another memory surfaced. You used to laugh all the time. My throat tightened. Emma sat back down. Then one day you became tired. I looked away. Because I knew exactly when that happened. The year Daniel lost his job. The year hospital bills piled up after my father's illness. The year I started working double shifts. The year survival became more important than happiness. I hadn't realized how much Emma noticed. You disappeared, she whispered. My eyes filled with tears. I was trying to keep us afloat. I know that now. The anger was gone. Replaced by regret. Then she said something neither of us expected. I owe you an apology. I laughed softly through my tears. Probably. A small smile appeared on her face. The first genuine smile I'd seen in years. Then it vanished. Because she picked up another page. A page I immediately recognized. And panic surged through me. Emma. She looked up. What? Don't read that one. Her eyebrows lifted. Why? I took a step forward. Please. The concern in my voice must have alarmed her. Because she looked down at the page. Then began reading. My heart stopped. Of all the pages in that diary. Not that one. Anything but that one. Emma's eyes moved across the words. Slowly. Then faster. The color drained from her face. Wait. I closed my eyes. Too late. Wait. Her voice became barely audible. What is this? I didn't answer. Rachel. The use of my name felt different now. Not cold. Not cruel. Confused. Terrified. She looked up. What does this mean? I opened my eyes. The page contained an entry written 2 weeks after Olivia's death. A secret I'd never shared. Not with Daniel. Not with Mom. Not with anyone. The entry described a conversation I overheard outside Olivia's hospital room. A conversation between 2 doctors. A conversation that suggested Olivia's accident might not have been an accident at all. Emma slowly stood. The paper trembled in her hands. You thought someone caused the crash? I wasn't sure. But you wrote that a witness disappeared. I know. You wrote that Olivia was arguing with someone before the accident. I know. Emma stared at me. Every trace of sadness vanished. Now there was only shock. And suspicion. Who was she arguing with? I looked away. Because even after 17 years, speaking the name still felt impossible. Emma's voice rose. Who? I swallowed hard. The answer sat like a stone in my throat. Then, before I could speak, a loud knock echoed downstairs. 3 sharp knocks. Unexpected. Urgent. Both of us froze. Another knock followed. Then another. Daniel's voice drifted up the stairs. Rachel? Something in his tone made my stomach drop. Rachel, you need to come down here. I looked at Emma. She looked at me. Neither of us moved. Then Daniel shouted again. This time sounding shaken. There's someone at the door asking about Olivia. My blood turned cold. Because only a handful of people even remembered Olivia anymore. And one of them had been dead for 17 years. Emma and I rushed downstairs together. Daniel stood in the hallway. His face pale. The front door was open. Outside stood an elderly man holding a weathered briefcase. Rain poured around him. He looked exhausted. Nervous. As if he'd spent years preparing for this moment. The stranger met my eyes. Then said 7 words that changed everything. I knew your sister before she died. The rain hammered against the porch roof. Nobody spoke. The elderly man stood at the doorway, water dripping from the brim of his hat. I felt Emma move closer beside me. Daniel remained near the staircase, watching carefully. The stranger looked from me to Emma. Then back to me. His expression was filled with something I couldn't immediately identify. Not fear. Not guilt. Regret. Deep regret. I think we should talk inside, he said quietly. Every instinct told me to shut the door. But another feeling was stronger. Curiosity. The kind that had haunted me for 17 years. Come in. The man stepped inside. Daniel handed him a towel. Thank you. He dried his hands before setting a worn leather briefcase on the dining table. For several seconds he simply stared at it. As if gathering courage. Finally he looked up. My name is Henry Collins. The name meant nothing to me. Emma crossed her arms. How did you know my aunt? The man's eyes softened. She saved my life. The room fell silent. What? Emma asked. Henry nodded. Many years ago. I exchanged a glance with Daniel. This was not where I expected the conversation to go. Henry took a slow breath. In 2009, I owned a small accounting firm. I frowned. What does that have to do with Olivia? Everything. He opened the briefcase. Inside were dozens of old folders. Newspaper clippings. Photographs. Documents. Carefully preserved. He removed one photograph and slid it across the table. The moment I saw it, my heart nearly stopped. Olivia. Smiling. Standing beside a building downtown. I had never seen the photo before. Where did you get this? I took it. My pulse quickened. Why? Henry sat down. Because your sister was helping me expose a fraud scheme. The room went silent. Emma blinked. Fraud? Henry nodded. A very large one. I stared at him. You must have the wrong person. No. Olivia wasn't an accountant. She wasn't. Then how could she help you? Henry smiled sadly. Because she worked for one. The answer hit me immediately. Michael Turner. The wealthy businessman Olivia had briefly worked for before Emma was born. I hadn't thought about him in years. Back then he seemed untouchable. Powerful. Respected. The kind of man whose picture appeared in magazines. Henry watched my reaction. You remember him? I nodded slowly. What about him? Henry leaned forward. Your sister discovered he was stealing money from investors. Emma looked confused. Daniel looked stunned. I felt dizzy. Henry continued. At first she ignored it. He paused. Then she found evidence. The room felt smaller. She wanted to report him. A cold sensation spread through my chest. Olivia never told me any of this. She was trying to protect you. The words landed heavily. Henry opened another folder. Inside were photocopies of financial records. Emails. Bank statements. Years of evidence. She brought all of this to me. I stared at the papers. You kept them? For 17 years. Why? Henry's eyes darkened. Because after she died, I became afraid. Nobody spoke. Rain continued pounding outside. She called me the night of the accident. My heart skipped. What? Henry nodded. She sounded terrified. Emma leaned forward. What did she say? Henry swallowed. She said someone knew she'd copied the records. The room became deathly quiet. She said a man had been following her for days. A chill raced down my spine. My diary. The witness. The missing details. Suddenly none of it sounded impossible. Did she tell you who? Henry shook his head. No. What happened next? His expression crumbled. She told me if anything happened to her, I needed to protect her daughter. Emma froze. I saw tears immediately forming in her eyes. Henry looked directly at her. She was talking about you. Emma's lip trembled. The room remained silent for several seconds. Then Henry said something none of us expected. There's more. Of course there was. There always was. He opened the final folder. Carefully. Slowly. As if revealing something dangerous. Inside was a birth certificate. My stomach dropped. Emma frowned. What is that? Henry pushed it toward us. I looked down. Then froze. Every ounce of blood drained from my face. Because Emma's father's name was listed. A name I had never seen before. Not Michael Turner. Not unknown. An actual name. A real person. For 16 years I had believed Olivia took that secret to her grave. But here it was. Written in black ink. Emma looked at the document. Then at me. Then back again. Who is that? I couldn't answer. Because I didn't know. Henry did. The man who signed that document disappeared 2 weeks before Olivia's accident. Daniel looked shocked. You mean vanished? Yes. Emma stared at the page. A dozen emotions crossed her face. Confusion. Fear. Curiosity. Hope. Is he alive? Henry hesitated. I don't know. The answer disappointed everyone. Then he reached into the briefcase one final time. This time he removed a sealed envelope. The paper looked newer than everything else. Recent. Very recent. My heart began racing again. What's that? Henry's voice softened. This is why I came. He handed it directly to Emma. Not me. Emma. The envelope had only 3 words written on the front. For Emma Collins. She stared at it. What is this? Henry looked exhausted. A letter. From who? His answer stunned the room. Your father. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Emma looked as though the floor had vanished beneath her feet. My father? Henry nodded. He contacted me 6 weeks ago. I couldn't process what I was hearing. That can't be possible. It is. Emma's hands trembled violently. He's alive? Henry looked away. That hesitation terrified me. Henry. He closed his eyes. Then slowly nodded. Yes. Emma gasped. Daniel swore under his breath. I grabbed the back of a chair to steady myself. 17 years. 17 years without a single answer. And suddenly everything was changing. Emma looked down at the envelope. Then back at Henry. Why didn't he come himself? The room became silent. Too silent. The kind of silence that usually arrives before bad news. Henry's eyes filled with sorrow. And immediately I knew I wasn't going to like the answer. Not one bit. He wanted to. Emma took a step forward. Then where is he? Henry stared at the floor. Several agonizing seconds passed. Then he finally spoke. He's in the hospital. Emma froze. What happened? Henry's voice cracked. He doesn't have much time left. The words hit like a thunderclap. Emma looked down at the envelope again. As if it had suddenly become the most important object in the world. Then she looked at me. For years she'd pushed me away. For years she'd refused to call me mom. But in that moment her eyes held something different. Fear. The fear of losing someone before getting answers. The fear I knew all too well. And before anyone could say another word, she whispered the one question that terrified me most. Will you come with me to meet him? The question hung in the air. Will you come with me to meet him? Emma's eyes never left mine. For years I had imagined this moment in different forms. Maybe a stranger would appear one day. Maybe a letter would arrive. Maybe we'd never learn the truth. But I had never imagined standing here, looking into my daughter's frightened eyes, knowing that the man who had been missing from her entire life was suddenly within reach. And that she was asking me to stand beside her. The old version of Emma would never have asked. The Emma from a week ago would have gone alone. The Emma who called me Rachel would have slammed the door and left. But this Emma looked scared. And despite everything, she wanted me there. My throat tightened. Of course I'll come. The relief on her face nearly broke me. She nodded once. Then quickly looked away before anyone could see fresh tears forming. The hospital was 3 hours away. Henry drove separately. Daniel stayed behind. The drive was mostly silent. Rain streaked across the windows. Emma held the envelope in her lap the entire time. She still hadn't opened it. I finally glanced at her. You don't want to read it? She shook her head. Not yet. Why? Her fingers tightened around the paper. Because if I read it before meeting him. She swallowed. It becomes real. I understood. Perfectly. Sometimes hope feels safer than reality. Because reality can disappoint you. Hope can survive a little longer. We arrived just after sunset. The hospital overlooked a lake surrounded by pine trees. It looked peaceful. Too peaceful. The kind of place people came when they were running out of time. Henry met us in the lobby. He's awake, he said quietly. Emma's face paled. Does he know we're here? Henry nodded. Yes. Nobody moved. Then Emma reached for my hand. The gesture shocked both of us. Because she hadn't held my hand in years. I squeezed gently. And together we followed Henry upstairs. Room 417. The number is burned into my memory forever. Henry stopped outside the door. Take your time. Emma stared at the room. I could practically hear her heart pounding. Mine wasn't much better. Finally she pushed the door open. Inside sat a thin man with silver hair. He looked older than his years. Illness had stolen much of his strength. But the moment he lifted his eyes toward Emma, everything changed. Because the resemblance was undeniable. The same eyes. The same smile. The same shape of the face. Emma stopped breathing. So did I. The man immediately began crying. Not softly. Not politely. The kind of crying that comes from decades of regret. Emma. His voice shook. Emma stood frozen. Unable to move. Unable to speak. The man wiped his eyes. I've imagined this moment every day. Nobody spoke. The silence itself felt emotional. Finally Emma whispered. Are you really my father? He nodded. Yes. The answer was simple. But it carried 17 years of absence. 17 years of unanswered questions. 17 birthdays. 17 Christmas mornings. 17 empty chairs. Emma's voice cracked. Why weren't you there? The man closed his eyes. A single tear rolled down his cheek. Because I was a coward. The honesty stunned us. No excuses. No lies. No dramatic speech. Just truth. I should have fought harder. Emma stared at him. You disappeared. I know. You left me. I know. Mom died. His face crumpled. I know. You missed everything. Fresh tears streamed down his face. I know. For a moment I thought Emma might walk out. Part of me wouldn't have blamed her. But then he said something unexpected. I tried to come back. The room went silent. Emma frowned. What? He looked toward me. Then back at her. Someone made sure I couldn't. A chill moved through me. The old investigation. The missing years. Olivia's accident. Michael Turner. The fraud scheme. It all rushed back. The man continued. After your mother died, I received threats. Emma listened carefully. I was told that if I contacted you. His voice broke. You would be hurt. Nobody moved. I didn't believe them at first. He swallowed hard. Then someone broke into my apartment. The room became deathly quiet. They left photographs. Emma's face paled. Photographs of what? His eyes filled with pain. You. The answer hit like a punch. I was terrified. Emma slowly sat down. The anger she'd carried for years suddenly had somewhere to go. A real target. A real explanation. Not abandonment. Fear. Manipulation. Cowardice. And tragedy. The man looked at me. You're Rachel. I nodded. His eyes softened immediately. Thank you. The words caught me off guard. For what? For giving my daughter a life. I looked away. Emotion tightening my chest. He smiled weakly. Olivia was right about you. My heart stopped. What? She said if anything happened to her, you'd protect Emma. Tears filled my eyes instantly. Even now. After all these years. Olivia somehow remained part of the room. Part of the story. Part of us. 2 days later, everything changed again. Henry called. The investigation files he'd kept for 17 years were finally being reviewed. Evidence that had disappeared had resurfaced. Witness statements. Financial records. Documents. Enough to expose Michael Turner's crimes. Enough to prove Olivia had been telling the truth. Enough to restore her name. The news spread quickly. Headlines appeared. Questions followed. People who had stayed silent suddenly started talking. And for the first time in nearly 2 decades, Olivia was no longer remembered as a victim. She was remembered as someone brave. Someone who tried to do the right thing. Someone who risked everything. Someone who mattered. 3 months later, we gathered at a small memorial overlooking the lake. Just family. Just memories. And finally, just truth. Emma stood beside me. A gentle breeze moved through the trees. She held a photograph of Olivia. The same smile. The same eyes. The same courage. For a while neither of us spoke. Then Emma surprised me. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." She looked nervous. Which wasn't normal for Emma. "Do you still have the diary?" I laughed softly. "Yes." "Can I read the rest?" "You really want to?" She nodded. "There are parts of you I never knew." The answer hit me harder than expected. Because she wasn't asking about Olivia. She was asking about me. About the woman she'd spent years pushing away. The woman she'd finally started seeing. I smiled. "You can read it." She smiled back. And for the first time in years, it reached her eyes. Then she did something I never expected. She slipped her arm through mine. The way she used to when she was little. The way she'd done before all the anger. Before all the questions. Before all the distance. We stood together looking at the lake. Looking at the future. And then it happened. The moment I'd stopped hoping for. The moment I'd secretly dreamed about for years. The moment that made every sleepless night worth it. Every sacrifice. Every heartbreak. Every tear. Emma leaned her head against my shoulder. Then quietly said, "Mom?" My breath caught. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Couldn't think. She squeezed my arm. "Mom?" A tear slipped down my cheek. "Yes?" Her voice trembled. "I read the first page of your diary again last night." I smiled through tears. "Oh?" She nodded. "You wrote something about me." "I probably wrote a lot." "No." She laughed softly. "This part." She cleared her throat dramatically. Then read from memory. "I don't know what kind of woman Emma will become someday. But if she ever reads this, I hope she knows something." My heart instantly recognized the passage. A passage written in the middle of grief. A passage I'd forgotten years ago. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Then she finished the sentence. "You were never a promise I had to keep." My vision blurred. She squeezed my hand. "You were the greatest gift I was ever given." The world disappeared. There was only my daughter. My daughter. Not by blood. Not by paperwork. Not by obligation. By love. The strongest thing in the world. Emma wrapped her arms around me. And this time when she spoke, there was no hesitation. No distance. No anger. Only love. "I love you, Mom." I held her tightly. The lake shimmered beneath the afternoon sun. The wind carried leaves across the water. And somewhere deep inside, after 17 years of secrets, grief, and unanswered questions, peace finally arrived. The diary had revealed the truth. But it wasn't the secrets that changed everything. It was the love hidden between the pages. And in the end, that was the story Emma needed most.